welcome back to the Alt. Thank you for joining me again today. I'm your host, Shapirian. Excited to be back with you after what was kind of a fun Monday night game, especially like the fourth quarter was really good, in my opinion. I'm excited to talk about it with you in this episode. We've got, I think we thought the New York Giants primetime, a New York team in primetime right now. Oh, how do we get another New York team in primetime? Hey, don't worry, because there's certainly more on the way, as is the way of being an NFL fan. The freaking Jets, my God, they've taken up so many primetime slots. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Giants, Steelers in particular. But before we do me a favor. Minimize the video real quick. Hit the little subscribe button if you haven't already, or at least consider doing so. I would greatly appreciate it, and it really does mean more to me than you would know. You can also join in on the conversation by leaving a comment. I answer all my comments, and I love hearing from you. I've heard some really interesting things in my comments over the last few weeks that I think have been really helpful to add into my sides of the conversations in the future from fans of certain teams. So I really do appreciate that kind of stuff, and I welcome it. So with that said, without any further ado, let's get right into it. Shorter episode than you used to today. It's just kind of the way it was. Life kind of got in the way today. It just kind of happened. It happens. But we're just going to be talking about the Monday night recap, not a normal episode of the Alt. We'll have our guy Treads on tomorrow. It's going to be good. We'll do Treads Takes, more of a longer episode. But for now, let's talk about the game that saw the Pittsburgh Steelers advance to 6-2 by winning 26-18 on primetime Monday Night Football in Pittsburgh for what seems to be like the infinite time that they've won at home on Monday Night Football. I truly can't remember a time where they've lost on Monday Night Football. I think that I just saw during this broadcast that it's 22 straight. I don't recall seeing anyways when that last time they lost was. It's very possible with me sitting here at 25 years old, I've never seen them lose at home on Monday Night Football. That's insane. But anyways, what a game from them. Look, weird defensive struggle, sloppy offense, dirty, gritty football in the first half. I think we expected it to be that way, like 9-9. I really went into the second half saying, okay, whichever team's able to more so impose their will is who's going to win this one, was kind of the thought I had. And I don't know that necessarily ended up coming to fruition, but certainly if there was a team that imposed their will over the other team in this one, it would be the Steelers over the Giants. That said, I think without a really weird 2-point conversion, we could have been talking about a completely different game here. Total miscommunication, totally overthought it by Brian Daboll, who I'm a huge fan of. I think he's a very good coach, stuck with a very bad team. For what we've heard, Joe Douglas and the Giants brass, the Maras, who I believe own the team, are going to be very patient with Brian Daboll, and I think it's absolutely the move. I think he's a very good coach who just has to at least get a second shot at quarterback here from what he's had in Daniel Jones, if we're just being honest. But way overthought it on that one. Way overthought it on that one. Desperate for a win, maybe? You're now 2-6 on the season. It's another wasted season, as we kind of expected it to be. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. But I have some comments on the Giants that I think if you're a Giants fan, you really might want to stick around until later in the episode, because I don't know that anyone else is looking at you all this way, and I don't think it's all doom and gloom for the New York Giants. So stick around, Giants fans. Steelers fans, let's talk about you for a second. In this one, we saw Russell Wilson advance to 2-0 as the starter. Okay, as long as he goes 500 in his next two games, he's at least matched Justin Fields. You kind of heard me talk last week and say, I pretty immediately was willing to say, like, all right, Mike Tomlin. You showed why you're on that side of the game and I'm on this side of the game. One of the many reasons that is the case, because I thought doing that with the momentum that your team had and the way Fields had been playing within your system, talking about Mike Tomlin's system, was a total mistake. I was wrong. I said that last week, and I mean it. I mean it. I'm not saying Russ is going to for sure lead them to the promised land, but certainly speaking, their chances look a lot better, don't they? We'll focus on that later in the episode. But in this game, we once again saw that the game plan with Russell Wilson is so much more expanded than it is with Justin Fields or with most other quarterbacks that he's had in the past handful of years. Going back, in my opinion, really to the end of Big Ben, who had a miraculous start to one of those last few seasons there, always had them in the playoffs. It's just a great organization top to bottom. And I'm sick to my stomach thinking about it. I'm jealous of how well ran the Pittsburgh Steelers are top to bottom. There's a few teams in this league that are ran that way. They're one of them. The Kansas City Chiefs, really starting with the acquisition of Andy Reid as their head coach, The Alex Smith era turned into one now, and we've seen the fruition, or the results of that, the fruits of their labors, I should say, during the Patrick Mahomes era now. But God, what is with this little devil voodoo magic that you guys have on there? 3 Hall of Fame head coaches in 50 plus years, 55, 54, something like that. Tons of Super Bowls, whatever the numbers is it just 6 still? I say just, like I wouldn't kill to have just one of them, but like, is it just 6 still? I think it's 6, right? God, man, it's unbelievable how good the Pittsburgh Steelers are. This version of this team is beginning to feel like one of those teams that stole a couple in the 2000s, in my opinion. In the 2000s and early 2010, I guess 10 was the last one they won, right? That's really how it's starting to feel. And I guess it was 09, right? 09 going into 10, right? Because they were on the cover of Madden 11, which came out in 10. Yeah, I think that's how that works. It was the 09 season. The Super Bowl was in 2010, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways, this team is starting to resemble one of those teams. I hope you all realize. I've talked about, like the Chiefs, the chances of them going 17-0 are non-zero. Not great, but not terrible. If you don't like the Steelers, a lot of fan bases don't. What do you do with them? I did not pick them to make the playoffs this year, but I knew they would be in the picture. My issue with them going into the season was I don't trust what we've seen from Justin Fields. I don't love what we had heard about Russell Wilson in camp. It was just whisperings and a whole lot of Tomlin system. I don't know that he helps that system. Nah. They've expanded the system. They've expanded what they're able to do as compared to what they were doing with Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, Mason Rudolph, etc. with Russell Wilson. Immediately, okay? And they plugged him into a situation where he can immediately find success. So I thought they'd probably go 9-8 if you had a gun to my head and said, where do the Steelers go this season? I would have said 9-8, and I think you barely missed the playoffs. You're going to at least go 10-7. If I had to pick right now, I'd probably say 11-6 is my guess. You have your bye week now. Well earned, coming at a good time where you're, nothing too serious going on. You can look ahead to this stretch in the season. Commanders are their next game. They go to Washington and face them coming off the bye week next Sunday, week 10. That was already week 10. But Pittsburgh, I all season long was a little weary saying this gauntlet to end the season, and it's their last 9 games are Commanders, Chiefs, Eagles, all 6 division games. Okay, let's really put that into perspective. The Steelers are an organization that always ends up beating up on teams in the Commander situation. Up and comer, awesome, electric offense, and you didn't play the Steelers. Right? It brings me no joy to say this. Am I wrong? That's how it goes. So, I don't know that I'm going to pick against them in that one. We'll see when the time comes. The Chiefs, okay, but that's in Pittsburgh. Could be a very fun game. Eagles, haven't played the Steelers yet. You have to let the games happen. But then specifically those 6 divisional games, they always give the Lamar Jackson Ravens problems because they know him well. They know him better than any other team, really. They've had the most consistent defensive core throughout Lamar's career. Where a lot of the guys who are impact players on this team, Hayward, Watt, really being the 2 big ones, have been there since the start of Lamar's career. And they've given him fits throughout Lamar's career. Okay? You probably split that, right? And then you have 4 against the Bengals and the Browns. You're winning at worst 3 of those 4. More than likely all 4 of those games with the way the 3 teams are playing right now, right? The Steelers, the Browns, and the Bengals. They're winning probably all 4 of those games. We could legitimately be talking about an 11-6 or 12-5 Steelers team. That's probably as high as I'm willing to go because I think they'll drop a couple down the stretch. But this team is going to have a ton of momentum going into the playoffs and might get 2 home games. We can't count them out. And it is getting to the point now where I have to ask, really, how far can they go? I've undersold them for a while, well, not really out of a lack of respect. I have nothing but respect for specifically Tomlin, who I've spoken glowingly of on this show, and for the way they run their org. I'm not crowning them as champs. I said that last week, but from what I've seen from Russell Wilson in this system, and the way they've been able to mostly protect him, even against the Giants D-line tonight, that's a good D-line. And they were able to get the job done even when it was dirty, right? They were constantly providing pressure. You only had 9 points off 3 field goals in the first half. Found a way to get it done. And what is up with their special teams? My God, it's unbelievable. So yeah, that's kind of just my little wrap a bow on the current version of the Pittsburgh Steelers. If there's a team taking midseason victory laps right now, they've got to be one of the 3 or 4, right? Chiefs, Lions, Ravens. I would have said Vikings, but I think they're having a little less fun now after 2 straight losses as anyone is. They are rightfully in that conversation, though. And the Steelers, who are in outright first place in the AFC North, people, wake up. I think the Ravens still win the division. God. Being a Steelers fan must be nice. That's all I have to say. That's all I have to say. Must be fun. Must be nice. On the other side of this game is a Giants team that has now fallen to 2-6 and seems to have no hope at the end of the tunnel. No light at the end of the tunnel. And while I do agree that there is no hope for this particular season, let me say something to kind of lighten the blow, Giants fans. I think right now, play hypothetical with me here, right? And it is hypothetical because, this is fantasy. It's not real reality. It's not going to happen. But hypothetical here. Put rookie Jaden Daniels on this New York Giants team, assuming you still have Malik Neighbors, of course. Right? I'm not saying, what if you would have? I'm saying throw a really good young quarterback on there with a lack of experience, but is still explosive, dynamic, able to extend the play, able to make the right decisions. Jaden Daniels, right? Put him on this team right now. What's their record? What's their record? Because that offense with a better quarterback takes more advantage of what was going on in the first half with the Steelers offense that couldn't get off the ground. That offense with Jaden Daniels beats the Bengals on Sunday Night Football a few weeks ago. That offense probably puts up more points on one of the worst defenses in the NFL, like the bottom 2 or bottom 3 defense in the Cowboys, depending on the metric, than the 15 they did. They lost 20-15. They're really close, is the thing. They just have the hardest part to find of all of them to replace, in my opinion, and that's Daniel Jones. And I don't think I'm going to get pushback on that from Giants fans. I think they're equally as tired of Daniel Jones as anyone else. And I'm not hating on him. It's just the reality of it is, you're not a great quarterback. I don't feel like I'm slandering him by saying that. I don't feel like I'm being unfair on a show that is mostly intended to be pretty much mostly positive, but we do speak some truth when the truth is apparent. It's an apparent truth that Daniel Jones is just not a very good NFL quarterback, at least not at this point in his career. He needs a fresh start. He needs a change of scenery. He needs a different, I don't want to say coach. He's had a different coach already, right? This is not his first coach. He just needs something different, okay? And then we'll see if he can save it. But for Giants fans, be patient. You're going to lose a lot of games this year. Again, I get it. It sucks. You are one piece away from being a really solid football team in a division that is always turning. If the Commanders win this division again, we continue the longest consecutive streak of no repeat winners back-to-back years in a division in the NFL, in the NFC East. No one's won it since the Andy Reid Eagles did it in 02, 03, or 03, 04 when they were kind of dominating the division. No team's won it twice since then. You can do it. You're really close. You got to hold the faith. Malik Neighbors is a stud. Andrew Thomas is a stud. He'll be back. Your defense is incredible, in my opinion. Up front, the front seven. Giving up the run game, the run defense is a little sus. I'm going to have to be honest with you there. The run defense is a little sus. But overall, there's a lot to like there. So Giants fans, hang in there. It will eventually get better. Okay? I really think it will. Daboll is a fantastic coach. Is it Daboll or Daboll, by the way? I hear both interchangeably all the time. Is it Brian Daboll or Brian Daboll? I'll kind of say both, just in case one's right over the other, right? He's a great coach, and I trust his direction. It's hard to do it with Daniel Jones. It just is. I'm sorry. It just is what it is. So, to kind of wrap up things for this specific shorter episode of The Alt, what's the conversation with the Steelers nationally? It has to begin to be what can't they do? If they beat the Commanders next week, an offense that really, outside of this Bears game, hasn't been stopped since week 1 against Tampa for the most part. Oof. I already think it's the best defense in the NFL. The offense has really woken up. If they can be top 13, 14, on top of a top 2 to 3 defense at the end of the season, sky's the limit. And for the Giants, I'm not saying anything you don't already know. You have to be patient, get through this era, get some quick turnover, maybe a veteran, something like that, and just see what can happen. So with that said, that wraps up this episode of The Alt. I'm sorry that it's a shorter one. I apologize. We'll get back to normal schedule tomorrow. Stuff like this does happen, but hey, we got an episode out. We talked about the Monday night game, and we'll look more forward to week 9 already, starting tomorrow. Don't miss it. Like I said, if you could, please consider subscribing to the channel if you made it this far. If you did make it this far, I appreciate you. Thank you. I love you, and I don't take it for granted. With that said, I will see you all back here bright and early tomorrow.